Now we turn to the home front. Veterans returning from the front lines are facing a sad and stunning statistic. By one estimate, nearly 50,000 veterans will experience homelessness each year.
Meanwhile, last November, CBS News exposed a hidden epidemic of suicide among military veterans, more than 6,000 in 2005 alone. Now it turns out that even vets who get help from the VA are at risk.
After 13 years of war, a new survey of veterans today found that many suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder are not satisfied with the care they're receiving from the Veterans Administration.
We turn now to what some military officials call an enduring and pressing emergency, the rise in veteran suicides.
Never before seen patient data from the Department of Veterans Affairs, detailing the growing number of suicide attempts among veterans recently treated by the VA.
Whenever you go through war, you're going to change permanently and totally for the rest of your life.
Spirits in the dark waiting. I will let the wind go quietly. I will let the wind go quietly.
For centuries, American soldiers have left the comfort of their homes to end national division and global tyranny. They have been given little in return for their sacrifices. Unfortunately, veterans have not been given the full support and the services that they require and deserve. In addition to longer tours of duty, wars have become more psychologically combative and brutally destructive, which has ultimately led to an increase in PTSD and higher suicide rates. This is a vicious cycle for our combat veterans, and the United States government needs to be proactive before more lives are lost. Soldiers enlist for various reasons. We met with several veterans. First, let us learn what motivated them to join the military.
Well, what year did you join the service, and what motivated you to join the military?
I was 17, 104 pounds. I was motivated because my brother was in the service and my other brother was in the service. They were both in the Navy, so when it was my time, I joined. I volunteered.
I actually re-enlisted twice in the military. I started in 1988. Was my original time. I was a teenager, kind of ran out of options as a young kid, so I actually joined the military. I did like 3 years, and then after that it's kind of lingered on and re-enlisted back in 2000, and that was mainly because I wanted to finish my military career.
You know, I was older. 9/11 happened. I was 28 years old. I had a 4-year-old son that I didn't want to leave. So but I heard the call. You know, I was angry like a lot of other Americans. I mean, there were Vietnam veterans trying to go into recruiting stations trying to re-enlist. I called the recruiter. I said I want to enlist, and I said I want to be gone in a month. So I went reserves because I figured that way I could train. You know, if I deployed, but I would still be around my son. I didn't want to go for 3, 4, 6 years away and then come back.
I was 18 years old. Actually, I graduated high school in 1968. So I was 17 at that time there. I had to wait till I was 18, which didn't occur until December that year. So in December of 1968, actually December 30th, 1968, a buddy and I joined the Navy and went off to see the world.
I joined in June of 2000, and I just wanted to, I always had a thing for wanting to be in the military, so I decided to join the infantry and go to Ranger School, Airborne School, and then that was the beginning of that.
I joined in 2002. I had decided to join actually just before September 11th in 2001 because I was inspired by the minister of my college church. to find a way to serve, to find a way to give back after all the opportunities I'd been given. I looked at different options. I looked at the Peace Corps, teaching overseas, but at the end of the day, I had so much respect for the young men and women who serve on the front lines of our nation's military that I decided that that's where I would do my part. And so I decided to join the Marines. I actually couldn't get into the fall class. It was already full. But amazingly, in that time, September 11th happened. My training started just after in January of 2002. And it finished at the end of the year, and I was in the first company of Marines into Baghdad in 2003.
Next, we will find out if they felt pressure and stress during their time in service.
And did you feel any type of pressure or stress?
Yes, everything is stress. The stress for me was leaving home right after we got married. Got married on the 8th. I left on the 14th of July, 2006. So I didn't come home for 18 months after that. So you get married, you say goodbye, and that creates a different stress. Then you get over there and you have to do your mission. You almost have to forget about home so you don't get hurt, because you have to, maintain your focus on the mission and keep yourself, squared away.
Did you do anything to help with that kind of stress or pressure?
Well, I'm a network guru, so what I did was I created a network for my base, and we were all able to call home as much as we can.
Yeah, all the time. So I had a different mission. I wasn't out as much. Yeah, there's stress. There's always stress. You're away from home, you're away from your family, but I wasn't in the kill zone as much as I was in Iraq, if that makes sense.
All the time. You're under pressure all the time. And the thing I'm trying to bring out to you is, if you have any idea of going to the service, don't go in unless you're an officer. If you go in as an officer, you have your graduation in college, it's okay. But as a seaman or a private, tough situation, it's hell. Because you're at the bottom of it and everybody's above you, all the officers.
There's always stress in a war zone in particular. And even in peacetime, there's stress trying to not let the team down, to get the job done, to complete the mission and all that stuff there. In a war zone, it's a little bit different, that, the stress is that you make the wrong decision, you may not be there to, continue on the next day.
The military? Yeah. When you come time for promotions, when you're getting ready to deploy and leave your family behind, when you're getting close to coming home and you don't want anybody messing up and getting killed, those are pretty stressful times. But the good times, they outweigh the bad times.
Absolutely. I mean, some of the worst days of my life were in Iraq and in the Marines, but some of the best days were there too. And I feel very fortunate to have come back, and I've had some post-traumatic stress, as I've been able to share publicly, but in general, I'm in good shape, and I have a great job where I get to serve the country again.
I scream at night in bed, Mary can tell you. It never left me.
Still stays with you.
Oh no, never left me. All night long I have, and you can't come near me when I'm sleeping, because I'll swing at you. Anybody that comes near me and I'm sleeping, right away. In fact, I'm doing the shopping, Stop and Shop, and I'm walking the aisles, and this poor kid, about 10 years old, comes around the aisle, and I'm face to face, and I went like this, and that poor kid, he got so scared. So to this day, if somebody comes near me,
just instinct.
Never left me.
And it's the dreams are bad, the dreams are dark.
They're all kinds. Everything is, mostly I'm lost. I can't find out where I am. It's all stress.
Soldiers endured difficult situations and had to make many tough decisions during their service. So, how did their time in the military affect their life today?
How did it affect my life today? It made all the difference in the world. It made me who I am today, the person I've become across time there. And it's something that I hold very near and dear. And during those formative years, learning that hard work, you can get places, you can accomplish things. And it was those formative years, being in a war zone, being on a ship, being underway, working closely with people that kind of shaped me into the person that I am today. So it's very important for me.
I'm a soldier forever. That's how I live. That's where I run everything. So I don't really deviate from the plan. I might smile and laugh and joke around, but everything is, there is no in the middle for me. There's always a yes and there's always a no. And there has to be a reason. So that's the military way for me.
You know, being in the Army enabled me to use my GI Bill. So I went to Northern Essex, I knocked out my associates, transferred to Salem State, did my bachelor's, and then I stayed at Salem State and did my master's, which I'm the first, my parents had high school diplomas. And now my son's active duty Army. He's 22 and he's stationed out in Fort Hood, Texas. He's a combat medic. So my son has kind of followed suit.
I started off as a junior draftsman, senior draftsman, designer, senior designer, and engineer. And then I retired. Oh, and I went to school at age 50 with my wife. We graduated college, cum laude.
It created a drive in me to never quit. You know, a lot like you guys wrestling, right? A lot like the wrestlers, they have a drive to not allow themselves to get pinned. Sometimes it doesn't work, but they have that drive, and no matter what happens, they still drive to be better. And so that's what my military experience taught me. What was instilled in me was to, even if I get knocked down, I'm going to get up and I'm going to keep going forward.
Too many veterans suffer from homelessness, mental health disorders, and substance abuse, and the numbers are only rising. We asked our vets what they think are the biggest issues for veterans.
I know for a fact that the VA has changed way more than what it was in the past. But I do know that there's so much paperwork and mitigation and all this other stuff going on in the middle that people don't have the time for it. You have a broken soldier, as we call it, anyone shot, whatever. They're in pain. They don't have anyone to walk them through the door to say these are all the things you need to do to make sure you get your benefits. This is why there's so many soldiers out on the streets. This is a real factor for me. It's an issue because I watched the guys I came home with and the few from Iraq who were injured really, really bad. And the pain was so bad, they just wanted to get out, but nobody was showing them how to do the paperwork. And you need paperwork in the military. Without the paperwork and the instructions on how to get your benefits, these guys signed themselves away from the military. They took their medical and said, I don't want your help, but they earned it. But when they sign that waiver and they give away their rights, they walk right out of the military with no benefits. They're on the street. And if they have nothing else to go home to, that's why we have so many homeless veterans on the streets. They lost their benefits. And Uncle Sam's not reaching back out to them and say, you know what, I'm going to give you a second chance to get this paperwork right. But there are benefits out there for them, and they just don't know about it. They're lost.
Right now, it's suicide. You know, a lot of the guys that are coming back from Afghanistan, trouble integrating back into society and so forth. And there's a big suicide rate. So that's a problem. And how do you deal with that? I think the Veterans Administration has made a great turnaround in focusing on these types of issues and helping veterans out and reaching out more to them. But it's trying to get people back engaged, back in the world, get them on their way to living a useful life. That's and a lot of guys just never recover and never come back. Just to cite one story, a buddy of mine, he went to Vietnam a year before I did, and it was a very bad period of time there, and it really kind of messed him up. And he came back, but he never was able to recover. Dipped into alcohol big time, and finally, probably maybe he's about 50 or something like that. It all came to fruition that he wound up dying in a horrible car wreck, totally drunk out of his mind and so forth. But he just never recovered from those events that shaped him at a young age there. I guess my point is that the Veterans Administration is doing a better job reaching out to those people that need the support to get them back in the mainstream again.
And another thing, you get an education. I had an education in my barbershop of all the bad things that people were doing. So when you go into service, they gamble, they drink alcohol, get drunk, everything bad. I can't tell you anything good.
I think people have kind of left the vets behind. You know, the vets, we kind of have to fend for it. And I'm not even talking about myself. I'm talking about the older vets, like the Vietnam vets, you know, some of the older vets. They're lost, and the system doesn't really try to help them. They just kind of put Band-Aids on it. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's one of the biggest issues with veterans is that the biggest, I believe, is veteran suicide. And that's, again, the VA and the government not really stepping in and trying to find a solution to the problem. They're just giving them medicine and putting Band-Aids on it, and that doesn't help. A lot of veterans, they need to feel a sense of purpose, right? So a lot of times, like as for me, I was in the infantry. When I got home, well, there's no wars going on here. I can't go fight people in the street. You know, my job is over. So what do I do? So it's a lot. It's like that a lot for a lot of veterans, and I think helping them find a sense of purpose in their lives to continue maybe doing what they did before, just not in a harmful manner. You know what I'm saying? Giving them a sense of their. A lot of them get lost. They don't know what to do because they're like, oh my God, what am I supposed to do with my life? I would probably do something to help them find their purpose.
The biggest issue for veterans is that the country makes you a promise that if you put your life on the line for America, we'll take care of you when you get home. And that promise has not been fulfilled because VA care, the medical care that we are promised, is not up to par. We should be giving our veterans the best health care in the world. There's no reason why it should be any less. But I go to the VA myself. I made that commitment to continue going to the VA even as a member of Congress. And I can tell you, it's not the best healthcare in the world. So we got some work to do. There are a lot of veterans who come home and have amazing job skills, but don't know how to apply them, don't get a chance to just start in the civilian world. You know, veterans are disproportionately CEOs of Fortune 500 companies because the leadership skills that you learn in some of the toughest environments on earth are very useful back here at home in business or in government and in public service in different ways. But if you don't get that chance to start, you can't successfully make the transition to getting that first job and proving yourself, then a lot of times you don't do well at all. And that's why veteran homelessness is also off the charts. So we have a lot of work to do to help the transition of veterans when they come out of the service and come back home. And we owe it to them to take care of them, given the sacrifices that they've been willing to make for the country.
For me, my biggest problem is outreach, trying to get out and get veterans to come in and talk to me or me to go out and talk to them. That's personally in my career is outreach. The biggest thing, getting people to come in the office. Veterans as a whole, you've probably heard the 22 a day, veteran suicide rate. It's actually higher than that. It's probably much higher than that. That's just what's reported. Suicide rate across the country is high. And the $1 million question is, how do you stop it?
Lastly, we ask our veterans if they would do it all over again, even with all the hardship they suffered.
Enlist again.
If I could have never left, I'd still be there. Yes, I would. Absolutely. But you definitely get to travel. You get to see some things that people never get to see. I mean, I've got to fire weapon systems that you see in movies. I would definitely do it again.
Oh yeah, in a heartbeat. No question about it. I'm there. I mean, I stayed with it for 42 years, active duty and reserve, because I just didn't want to give it up. It comes to a point where you recognize it's time. It's time to move on.
Again, and I'll tell you, I feel lucky. I would not be a member of Congress without my experience in the Marines. There's no question in my mind. It was my experience in the Marines that motivated me to run in the first place. And I love having a job now where I can make a difference in people's lives. But I had that job before. And I often tell people that being a member of Congress is a great honor, but it's the second best job I've ever had.
People